Hello, welcome to a special episode of The Big Debate. I'm Masachaba Lekalake. Have you ever thought you could do a better job of running the country than the guys at the top? Well, a new generation of younger leaders is emerging, raising their voices from within the opposition parties, from communities, and even from within the ruling ANC. In today's show, we hear from some of those outspoken young South Africans, and we find out which of them has the vision to take South Africa forward. Today's show was produced at The Gathering, a star-studded event organized by the Daily Maverick.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, thanks for being here. It's very meaningful.
Yes.
The Gathering, 2015, Meet the Game Changers. Here we are.
Yes.
You're probably going to be seeing this on The Big Debate, which is apparently a very big television show.
Yes.
Heard of it?
Yes, I
Very
have.
good.
I have.
I think the first panel is political.
Yes, because they're going to be talking about the state of the nation.
The state of the
Yes.
nation. So quick and quite sad. If you're welcome, we have one political guest who won't be here now.
Yeah.
He's coming later because he's actually writing an exam today. Yes, that's correct. Julius Malema is writing an economics exam. Am I right? Am I right? Yes.
Nice.
The fearless commander is writing an exam.
Nice. Nice.
Excellent.
Clip
I
notes.
can't wait. And then, if he gets a B, he can come back. And I said B. I'm trying to be helpful. Because he got a G for woodwork, right? That's why they didn't want him anywhere near the cabinet. So the point is that Julius Malema will be joining us later in the day.
Now we have a musical Jew, who is going to give us politics in A minor. Please welcome Mr. Deep Fried Man.
I'm going to be doing something that I invented. It's when you take a popular song and you change the lyrics. And I'm going to be applying it to some items in recent news. They try to make me buy an E-tag, but I said no, no, no. Cyril Ramaphosa said he would call the po. But they ain't got the time. They're too busy with the crime. And no one bought a single E-tag, in Joburg.
With e-tolls and load shedding driving most of us crazy, opposition parties say the ruling party has lost its way. The ANC says it has a good story to tell. Let's hear Paul Mashatile, Gauteng chairperson of the ANC, locking horns with Mmusi Maimane, the newly elected leader of the DA, along with Zwelinzima Vavi, former general secretary of COSATU. Later, we'll hear from Commander-in-Chief Julius Malema. But first, here's a taste of what the first three had to say.
South Africa has made progress towards establishing a more equitable society. Gauteng has continued to grow as a vibrant and diverse global city region with sustained improvement in the quality of life. Satisfaction levels among the overwhelming majority of the people in Gauteng are very high with regards to access to education, provision of libraries, basic services, and good infrastructure.
The recently elected leader of the Democratic Alliance, Mmusi Maimane, CNN dubbed him the Obama of Soweto, but we think that's because they don't know any other black people who are leaders.
I believe this current government has focused itself rather than from serving people but to serving itself. As many have called it, a neo-patrimonial state. I think, ladies and gentlemen, you don't have to be an economist to know what's wrong with South Africa. Anyone will tell you that our biggest threat is the fact that many South Africans cannot find work, they face the harsh levels of poverty, and without fail, we still live in an unequal society. We can't ignore the people of Gauteng when they call out for a scrapping of e-tolls. We cannot justify that a swimming pool can be a fire pool, or that one person can own a house that they do, while so many of the South Africans are spending their days in the streets. We have to create a capable state. We should get to a point where politicians fear voters rather than the other way around. If we're going to get South Africa right, then our second transition must be that shift at national elections where we see one government make a way for another. I thank you very much.
Okay, our final speaker is Mr. Zwelinzima Vavi. He was recently expelled as COSATU General Secretary, but as we know, he's something of a comeback kid.
Mandla. Our country faces its biggest crisis since the birth of our democracy in 1994. Unemployment has reached an appalling level of 36.1%. The other day, our president was telling Parliament that our country is doing very well. In our real world, South Africa is In our real world, South Africa is teetering on a knife edge. Millions of people are feeling marginalized and excluded by a society in which the rich get richer and the poor are left even further behind. That's, to me, the crisis. And anybody who says there's no problem, then there's something wrong with that person. The statement by the Minister of Police, Nathi Nhleko, on the repayment of the money spent on Nkandla is a disgrace move to dodge taking responsibility for the grossly excessive amount spent and for all those who corruptly benefited from it. The only way forward is the return to the Freedom Charter.
Not sure which of our young leaders has the best vision for South Africa? Let's hear them tackle some tough questions posed by a panel of 3 journalists. Look out for a surprising admission from Paul Mashatile on Nkandla, and watch out later for an unruly guest who gatecrashes the proceedings.
One of your priorities now as the new DA leader is breaking down the barriers of race and changing the complexion of your party. How do you take the DA from where it was to this new complexion DA?
Or the cafe mocha DA, is that what you want?
Oh, is that what you call it?
No, I don't call it that, I'm just saying. Look, the mistake that apartheid, well, in fact, the evil that apartheid introduced to South Africans is that if you are of a particular race, you are superior, and if you're a particular race, you are inferior. And that's why I've been very quite clear that if anyone holds those polarizing views, they are not welcome in the DA. The project that I'm involved with now is about building a non-racial South Africa.
So this project of a non-racial South Africa was your project, Mr. Mashatile. What's happened? Why is he stealing your project?
No, sometimes it's okay to agree. So if Musi is with me, that's good.
Come join me.
But let me make this let me make this point that when I joined the ANC more than 30 years ago as a young man, one thing that I was taught was that we are fighting against a system, not white people. So I'm happy when I see all parties in South Africa committed to that agenda.
We're getting questions from the audience and from social media, and guess what's the most popular topic? Should I tell you?
The ETOLs.
ETOLs. You know it.
Yeah, you want me to say something?
I want you to say something.
Well, let me say this before Musi speaks.
I want to give you some notes. Scrap ETOLs, just say that.
Let me say this.
Some of the things we say in the past come back to haunt us in the future.
In fact, I'm aware that there's still discontent with the New Deal, if I may put it that way. But I just want to remind the audience that we are not where we were last year. We are reducing. Nobody will pay more than 225 a month. Because where we stand as the ANC Gauteng is that we are worried about affordability. And we have not changed that stance, Comrade Vavi. We want public transport that is affordable.
Certainly from where I sit, I'm still concerned about the principle you apply. The whole notion that economic infrastructure must be financed by the user, particularly using road infrastructure, I think to me is a misnomer. I think South Africans are already paying for the road infrastructure by using the fuel levy. Regardless of what the cost is, you can't add more. Can you imagine if we redirected some of the financing that has been wasted by the state to being able to say, can we put it on road infrastructure? And I'll give you a very practical example. Why don't we have cabinet? Our cabinet is the largest. I'm not saying it will finance all road infrastructure, but I'm giving you practical examples of how fat our state is and how low its output is. The issue here is about wrong focus.
I'm sitting here quite embarrassed, Paul. I must say this, because there you have a DA on your right.
I think it's on my left today.
Depending on where you're looking.
Telling you about a principle that says in society, there are certain things that you cannot give it to the dictates of capital to hunt profits around, that they are so basic that they require a developmental state to provide. These include education, health, water, and our roads. You don't give them to the private entity to generate profit. The ANC in 2015 get to be told by the DA that.
But you were in the alliance, Mr. Vavi. Let's not get away from the fact that you were in the alliance. You could have made those arguments.
I did, by the way. That's why sometimes you explain
so
my
why are you
presence.
laying it at Paul's door now? You did, it didn't work. So you know what the ANC is
I
like,
got kicked out.
You didn't get kicked out of the ANC, did you?
No, in fact, I think it's unfair to define Vavi outside of the ANC. I'm not sure why they're doing that. But of course, of course, if there are people who are critical within the ANC, you do need a critical voice. And I see Vavi being one of those. So when he's critical, I'm not saying, well, now, you are with these guys. So continue to be critical.
So, Mr. Vavi, ETOLS was your issue as COSATU General Secretary. I see you talking radical economic transformation. That's also the ANC's central policies, one of the EFF central policies. What's your thing?
The 9 unions in COSATU who are agitating for an independent, militant fighting organization are convening a civil society indaba. On our agenda, first is Ngandla.
Nkandla?
Yep.
Really?
Yes, that's what we're discussing. Somebody have to take responsibility at the fact that 246, and we are now being told more is going to be the case. The cabinet should take responsibility over that issue. There can be no other way. The day South Africa just write tweets and Facebook and complain at the scale of that abuse of public purse, then we must know that we're signing our future off. We've got to stand up. We've got to go to the union buildings to say, we are not fools. And we will make a call on all political parties, including you, to join us. To join us, all of those who disagree as a matter of principle on the Nkandla scandal, irrespective of their political affiliation, their gender, their religion, or color, must join us.
Comrade Vavi was saying that more is going to be spent. Now, I just want to say that's not an ANC position. So that issue is still going to be discussed by the NEC itself because it never came to us. So for now, I would like to say it's his view.
It's an ANC minister
advancing
an ANC policy in government.
No, it's not an ANC policy.
Okay,
it's not an ANC policy.
So the ANC in Parliament in that ad hoc committee is going to say this is not our policy, Mr. Minister.
Certainly, because that's not an ANC position.
So when you vote in Parliament, you don't advance an ANC position or when you vote in support of the report?
We do. The point I'm making
you
is that...
You voted in support of the report. You voted.
No. The report is still going to be discussed.
Supported it, and you voted for it.
I supported that it must go and be discussed. But the point I was making, Comrade Vavi, was that issue have never come to us as the ANC. I heard it for the first time that the minister said this. I don't agree with it. So it's not an ANC position.
Mr. Mashatile, Mr. Mashatile,
Yes.
let me ask you, because Mr. Maimane made a statement that got a very strong reaction in this room and on social media. He said that South Africans deserve to live in a country where politicians fear the voters and not the other way around. What is the view of the ANC in terms of what regard they hold the voters of this country? Because ever so often, you very confidently remind us that you will be in power forever.
I certainly have never done that. I really fear the voters. So if the voters said, we are not happy with this, we will listen.
Well, let's do a simple exercise.
No, just wait. Just wait. I'm sorry. No. I'm sorry.
Do you think this is Parliament?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Hello. Oh my God. How did you... Discipline from you. No, I want to understand in Canada because basically Jacob Zuma said the Minister of Police is telling whether to pay back the money, and then the Minister of Police is waiting for Jacob Zuma to tell him whether to tell him. It's like the CEO of Edgar's got today his Edgar's account and then was dodging calls from himself. There's a lot of things that I didn't understand, you guys. A lot of things I didn't. 75% of senior management are still white, or as Musi Nainani calls them, his support base. I don't understand. How did you choose these guys, Ranjan? You got two politicians and Ivan Jim's wingman.
Let me just say that I do salute Paul and his guts in relation to this matter of the 246 million.
Great job.
It's gonna get
And
recalled.
let me say, had we had a lot of Paul Mashatiles in the National Executive Committee, way back in 2009 when it was first reported that the Nkandla spending have escalated to 79 million and then to 100 and something million, we would not be sitting with 246 million rands now that we're speaking about. So whilst I salute him, I think that lot of cabinet ministers, and he was in cabinet when that happened, and lot of National Executive Committee should hang their heads in shame that they did not stand up and be counted.
But hold on,
this
you were in the
particular
ANC National Executive, I mean, you were in the ANC Alliance. You have Jacob Zuma's cell number. Do you still have
The
it?
last time I had a one-on-one meeting with him was in June 2010, and on my agenda was on these issues.
Okay, so
There's
what was his
Facebook
response?
threads, I know it. Okay. Hello,
Hello,
Uncle. Shame, man, you wanted to keep on talking there for a long time, eh? For a unionist wanting to work overtime is not a good sign. I love you, Uncle. I hope you get a job. Cleaning the fire ball. Okay.
Just give me 1 sec. Now, I would slightly disagree with the leader of the DA. I think there's too much agreement among South African political parties around substantive issues. Don't you think that what we have here is the beginning of almost a new political formation? The DA on the right, the ANC in the amorphous center, with perhaps a Labour Party developing on the left?
Absolutely. I think the generational shift in South African politics is something that we believe we're championing the way forward for, a mixture of ideas. I certainly would hope that even at next year's ballots we'll be there, and in 2019 we'll certainly be there, because we believe South Africans must have a choice about their future, rather than just only really having a debate about a better yesterday. We must have an encounter about what we can make a better tomorrow.
Okay, Mr. Mashatile, there is talk somewhere that you could possibly be leaving Parliament, that you could possibly be contesting for a senior position in the ANC in 2017. Is that a wild rumor? Is it a vague possibility?
Well, it's a rumor for now. But let me say that for a future of this country, I think it will be good to compete with a lot of young people. I'm certainly ready for my monies of this world. But I think it's good for democracy to see more young, vibrant youngsters determined to ensure that we transform this country for the better.
Mr. Vavi, do you think your name is going to be on a ballot paper anytime soon?
No. I'm an activist. I'm not necessarily somebody hunting for a parliamentary
But some of your
positions.
supporters here want you to
No, you have not spoken to
Which
anyone.
one of these?
No, but the point is, I'm a socialist to the core. Every day I sleep and wake up, my first thought is what's happening to the plight of the working people and the poor. And what the speech that my man was making here makes me to cringe where I was sitting to say, oh my word, these policies will drive the situation of the workers and the poor even. Anyway, Natula.
No, tell
What
us
about
about
my
the word,
speech?
tell us.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's wrap it up.
This man is a complete disruption.
Who's your daddy?
I have to be honest. I think Mr. Maimani has quite a tight rebuttal on him. It's quite impressive. Whew.
You do know there's one man in this country who gets blamed for all of our problems, but it's fine because he doesn't give a And that's why I wrote this song. It goes like this. It goes. There are people hating me, even within the ANC. People disagree, whoa, ho, with my activities. Oh, ho, people love it when I sing, but Nkandla is too bling. That's what people think, whoa, ho, that's what people think. Oh, ho, but I won't stop fooling the people that I'm ruling because of our poor schooling. People don't learn, so they gave me a second term. I find it funny, won't pay back the money. After all I've done, see, that would get me into a ton of debt. Cause Malema's gonna hate on you. And Moosie's gonna say it's your fault too. But I'm just gonna do what I usually do and laugh it off, oh baby. Thank you very much. Peace.
Welcome back to the special big debate from the Daily Maverick gathering. We've been listening to young leaders talking about their vision. Next, 3 activists give Deputy Minister John Jeffrey a roasting about the state of schools, hospitals, and other government failures. We'll hear from Mark Haywood of Section 27 and Tepo Mutsepe from Equal Education. But first, Nomzamo Zondo, a lawyer representing the families of mine workers who died in Marikana.
Those in authority don't see the dignity of the poor in this country. And many times, just like in Marikana, that the families, their dignity demands that they be released from this sense of anxiety that they're currently living in. But as attorneys, we take the lead from our clients who have a voice. The reason you don't hear them is not because they haven't said anything, it's because it simply refuses to hear them. It simply refuses to hear them when they protest in Tembelihle. It refuses to hear them when they protest in Sakane. And it refuses to hear them when they protest in Marikana. What is more dangerous is the fact that when they are finally heard, the response is violence.
Our country needs vibrant and dynamic civil society organizations and activists. However, members of civil society are usually quick to point out what they perceive as flaws of government, and they're not as always forthcoming with acknowledging when things work well. This government has done a lot in terms of addressing the imbalances of the past and trying to tackle poverty. The fact that there are free schools and student enrollment at universities increasing by 12% from 2009 to 2012-13. And as far as health, the ARV strategy a lot has been done. Our ARV therapy program constitutes 30% of the global program. It is important for non-government organizations and government to work together. That if NGOs spend their whole time bringing court cases against government, then money is wasted on lawyers. So yeah, it's easier for government and NGOs to work together.
Yes, this government has done a great deal to improve access to basic rights such as healthcare services, education. But that the critical questions we're asking now is about the quality of access. Now, just to correct the Deputy Minister, in the last 3 months of 2014, 22% of clinics had experienced a shortage of antiretrovirals in the previous 3 months. I was in Limpopo yesterday. James and Rosina Komapi are the parents of Michael Komapi. Michael Komapi was this little boy who on the 20th of January 2014 at break time went out to the toilet. Those were the toilets that he went to. Michael Komapi fell into that toilet and he died. We talk about the poor as if they're statistics, not as if there are parents that are still suffering a year later at the death of this little boy. And we do very much now live in two worlds. As we speak here today in Limpopo, despite the outcry about toilets, a Statistics South Africa report in 2013 found that 300,000 students go to schools that do not have toilets or do not have adequate toilets. And I don't think that there is an excuse, that any excuse can be found for that. All I want to say about basic education is that it is a crisis. And as John said, it is a constitutional imperative that we do everything possible, that we use every possible resource, Paul Mashatile, to help Panyaza Lesotho fix the schools within Gauteng, to make sure that there's proper infrastructure. It is a constitutional duty, and we will test that constitutional duty in the Supreme Court this year when we are forced to go to court, Deputy Minister, against the government because the government says that it is an unreasonable standard of perfection to expect that every learner should have a textbook for relevant academic subject at the start of every year. In fact, it's the government that's appealing it. There would be no need to go to court if the government accepted the duties that flow from the Constitution.
It should be worrying if the Deputy Minister of Justice comes here and says the continued use of the courts by civil society is a problem. In fact, what we should be saying to the Deputy Minister is that we use the courts because the courts are currently the only arm of government that is willing to listen to the poor. But the reality is, Minister, you want us to sit here and celebrate. We can't be celebrating forever. At some point, we need to roll up our sleeves and start working. The harsh reality is that education mirrors the unequal nature of South Africa. Out of the 24,793 schools in the country, 2,500 schools do not have water. 11,500 schools use unsafe pit toilets. 93% of schools do not have libraries. 95% of schools in the country do not have science labs. The harsh reality is that deracializing education in 1994 did not solve the problem of an unequal education system that produced unequal results and still continues to produce unequal results. While we criticize the middle class for not doing anything, there's a huge number of young people that are waking up to the harsh reality of their conditions, and they are starting to organize as young people. I can assure you now, it will not only be the cause that you criticize, but it will be young men and women marching into parliament, marching into big businesses, demanding that people take responsibility and start building this country. I thank you.
What's been painted is a picture of a country on the brink. Perhaps some people feel that the bomb is already exploded. So I'm going to actually give the Deputy Minister of Justice the first opportunity to respond, because you've come in for, I think, the toughest grilling. And if you were living in an ideal world where you didn't have this contrarian bunch of civil society organizations and lawyers who just want to go to court all the time, how would you advise civil society to get justice for Marikana, to get justice for Michael Kompape? The second part to that is, you've been accused of being an uncaring government. How do you, as the Deputy Minister of Justice, explain to people that you actually do care?
To start, I mean, I think there's been some misrepresentation of what I said. So, for example, Tsepo said, that I want everybody to celebrate about what we've done. That's not what I said. Nobody said anything about celebration. The issue was that we have done a lot. We've still got a lot more to do. But there was never any mention, and it was a distortion to say anyone is expecting you to celebrate. And also on the issue of litigation, I didn't say that civil, I see somebody's tweeted that I had said, Deputy Minister of Justice says NGOs waste their money on non-issues like taking the state to court in cases like Marikana. Now, the point I was trying to make, it's not saying don't take government to court at all. There may be times when it is necessary. But it's an issue of engaged government. And what surprises me, Tsepo, is that, I mean, as Equal Education, you've been engaging the Gauteng Education Department. My understanding is that you took the school social audit report to the MEC, and that upon hearing of Equal Education's findings and demands, MEC Lesufi responded by saying, I fully accept all your demands unconditionally. So that's the way to go forward, to engage. And that's what I mean about NGOs and civil society working with government. And then also saying those in power hate organized people. We welcome organized civil society. My email address is open. My cell phone is a public number. Anyone can raise issues. Those issues get taken up. From government as a whole, there's the presidential hotline. There's a number of initiatives to try and respond to problems that people are raising. There's a lot to be done. It's important for efforts to be pooled, for people to push together to resolve the problems.
Welcome back to the big debate. Back to the action.
Nomzamo, how should we get justice for Marikana? What are the hindrances? Why are you running to court all the time? And what court cases are you preparing to hold Lonman accountable for what has also happened?
Fatima, we represent over 200 people who lost their loved ones at Marikana. Families who for the last 2 years have been starving, who do not have an income, who even at a time when they approached Zuma for assistance, still got ignored. Our clients, the families, are clear that they want Lonman to account. And if we find that, Deputy Minister, your people at the NPA refuse to prosecute the police that shot people at scene 1, the police that killed people in scene 2, then there'll be a private prosecution. And we are busy collating information for that. We're busy collating information for the civil claims. And we want justice. Our clients demand justice. And they hope that all of you here will be right behind them, and many South Africans who are out there as well.
So, Mark Haywood, the resident white man troublemaker, why are you telling black people what to do, or the poor? Or do you feel that the poor in this country have enough of a platform to actually articulate their own concerns and voices? And what actually happens in your organization's thinking when you actually decide to take government to court, whether it's on ARV medicines or whether it's on the right to protest?
You know, we don't tell the poor anything at Section 27. That's not our job. We're an organization that subscribes wholeheartedly to the Constitution, and particularly to the vision of the Constitution about a just and equal societies. You know, the way organizations like us work, we got no joy in going to court. Problem is that the Democratic Parliament is unresponsive at the moment. It's not doing its job. And that is the problem, and I'll make a political point here. I'm sure Paul Mashatile is gone. But the problem is that the representatives in the Democratic Parliament are towing the party line. And, you know, I work in health. Great minister, Motsoaledi, and we work very closely. But he can't be a good health minister in a bad government. Because he depends to implement part of his policies on some crooks, like Benny Malakwani, the MEC for Health in the Free State, who is being protected by your party. I went and met with Gwede Mantashe last year and said, Malakwane is on trial in 3 different corruption trials at the moment, but he's the MEC for Health. And actually it's time for the good ANC to distance itself from the bad ANC.
One of the critiques of our education system is that the dualism has allowed a worsening public education system. Is it time to start calling for scrapping the private education system in South Africa? Will our system actually change when very rich people and the elite, both in government and the private sector, have to start sending their children to public schools?
That would be the ideal situation, eh? But I want to say there are 3 types of schooling in the country. It's not only the issue of private schooling that we should be worried about. We also need to be worried about former white schools or multi schools, where now the emerging black middle class is starting to send their kids into those schools. And the majority of people in the country, in rural Eastern Cape, in Limpopo, in KZN, have to scrape and send their kids to schools that are 15 kilometers away. That divide that is continuing has now lost its race component, so to speak. It has assumed a class component.
What is the one thing that should happen for organizations that are working in the space after this? One idea.
Look, I think the key issue is partnerships. That let's not look at whether the glass is half full or half empty. It's a glass with a certain amount of water in it. Let's look at what can be done to get the glass to be full.
Great. Glass.
We want a responsive state. And why is it? Why is it difficult for government to comply with court orders?
So a half full glass, a responsive state.
The middle class in this country needs to start realizing that they have a greater responsibility than the poor people.
Class consciousness.
I think there needs to be a very, very serious discussion started about how the economy can be restructured in a way that provides people with the rights that are recognized in the Constitution, and how we can kickstart growth in this economy on the basis of social justice.
Great. Thank you all. It's been an absolute pleasure.
I think the good thing here is that we let these people have these conversations while we watch. I think that's the key. I can give you a quick summary, if you want a very quick summary. Social justice. Justice. That's basically it.
When we return, we hear from Julius Malema, Commander-in-Chief of the Economic Freedom Fighters. You're watching The Big Debate at the Daily Maverick Gathering. Welcome back to The Big Debate. I'm Masachaba Lekalake. EFF Commander-in-Chief Julius Malema once said he'd kill for Zuma. He explains why and tells us who should be scared of the EFF's policies on land reform. Asking the questions is Ranjini Munsami of the Daily Maverick. Watch this.
Well, thank you, Julius. You couldn't join us today. We had a long day. We had a very dramatic day. You were writing exams. I take it you weren't studying taxation law.
No.
Okay. So can you share with us maybe what were you studying?
No, today I was writing business management. I'm studying BA with UNISA. This was my last subject on specializing in politics and citizenship.
So how did it go? Did you pass?
Well, you can't praise horses which have not returned. So they must first return, and we know which one is number one.
Okay. The EFF is now 2 years old. Is it what you envisaged it would be?
The EFF is an organization that continues to make us very proud, because we knew that South Africans are looking for an alternative. And the EFF, within a short space of time, contested elections And now it's represented in almost all the legislatures. Busy now preparing for local government elections, listening to our people so that when we take over some of the municipalities, we know exactly what our people want.
You've made a lot of noise on the political scene. You've provided a lot of color to the political scene. But in your view, what substantive has the EFF achieved in the time it's been alive?
The EFF has provided an alternative policy perspective to the country, including to the ANC. It is the only socialist party that speaks about socialism openly in parliament. It's the
But
only
socialism
party.
by what definition? Because that's a moving target, seemingly.
No, socialism by the definition of state ownership of strategic sectors of the economy. And that will, amongst others, include land, mines, the banks, and other monopoly industries. We spoke about the conditions of workers, not only in the mining sector, the workers who are working in the restaurants, the security guards, the domestic workers, farm workers, family, unashamedly spoke on their behalf in Parliament. That's why the Parliament channel is so popular now, because the masses feel represented.
So the ANC is 103 years old. It's the party of Nelson Mandela, of Oliver Tambo. You revered these leaders. There must be part of you that's still a bit heart-sore that you couldn't follow, in the succession of that legion of really heroic people that the party would not and will now never be handed over to you.
Well, we're following in their footsteps on a different organization called the EFF, and not only Nelson Mandela, because he was not the only one who fought for our freedom. We're following in the footsteps of Sebukwe. We're following the footsteps of Steve Biko. We're following in the footsteps of all great giants that fought for our freedom. The problem with the ANC is that they indoctrinate people to an extent that you think it is only them in South Africa.
But you fell out with this current leadership of the ANC. So let me give you a scenario. President Jacob Zuma decides in a few months, in a few years, I don't know when, but decides to retire to Nkandla, and the next ANC conference.
There's no one man who can make you go back to the ANC.
But we had a
Who
dynamic
are
young man here
self-serving.
this morning, Paul Mashatile. He's a new generation ANC leader.
Paul belongs to that elite group that continues to milk our resources. And then he comes here, and then he comes here and he wants to behave brave. Let's hope he won't say you distorted him on what he said about Jacob Zuma.
Okay, so who are you willing to build bridges with? Musi Maimane is the new leader of the DA. Helen Zille said she didn't want to cooperate with you in any kind of coalition government. But next year, we are heading for a very contested election. The opportunity may arise to change power in some of the metros, or some of the municipalities, to a coalition government. Would you be willing to cooperate with the Democratic Alliance?
I support anyone that advances the national interest. If Musi stand up in parliament and say Zuma must pay back the money, or that Zuma must release the Nkandla report, I will stand up and support him. So whoever wants the votes of the EFF will have to come and bring us a yearly contract which stipulates what people are going to benefit that year by when.
So talking about the ANC, in the case of President Jacob Zuma, you were very passionate in your defense for him.
You know, I've over-explained the issue of killing for Zuma to you and to everybody else, that I've never literally meant that I will kill for Zuma. All I said was a commitment to the cause. I supported Zuma, and I still don't regret supporting him to be president of the ANC against President Mbeki. President Mbeki was going to compromise the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa because he wanted to go for a third term. So the killing for Zuma was an emphatic statement in defense of our Constitution to say, we'll make anyone the president for as long as it is in the defense of the Constitution. When a person is dressed smart, you say, today you are dressed to kill. It doesn't mean that person is well armed with bullets.
There are many people who are scared of you. They find your posture, they find your positions, such as, I'll give you an example, the land occupation. They feel that it's threatening to the legality, the rule of law.
No. We are going to take the land and put it under the state. And that is going to be done through legislation and not through violent means. Those who are scared of such a policy are greedy people, are the people who are having the land and enjoying seeing landless people around them. So if you don't want us to expropriate without compensation and make the state a custodian of the land which shall be shared by all, bring an alternative. Because willing buyer, willing seller has not worked. We're not going to disrupt any residential arrangement, and all those owning big chunk of land, they will have to reapply to the state and state why they want to continue using that part of the land.
Okay. Mr. Malema, thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
We really appreciate your presence. We hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for staying with us.
Well, that's all we have time for on this special big debate brought to you in partnership with the Daily Maverick. Do any of our young leaders have the vision to take South Africa forward? Will activists force the government to deliver on its promises of a better society for all? Or are we headed for crisis? You decide. Leave your comments on Facebook and Twitter. And thank you for watching The Big Debate.